Good evening. Good evening. So I set the goal of going live every day. And to stay committed to that, here I am, 11 p.m., live and ready. But I just wanted to give you an introduction and keep it 20 minutes. Give you an introduction of myself. My name is Kara Gooch, born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. And a lot of people are shocked when they hear me say that because of the way in which I have spent many years outside of Los Angeles. So one is led to believe that LA is not my home, but it is. I I grew up around the Crenshaw area. So for anyone that may need a point of reference, Boys in the Hood was filmed near the area that I grew up. So the scene with the dead bodies, the scene with being on the train tracks when the boys were young. Those were also train tracks that we traveled going up and down the street and back and forth to school during my elementary years. But what led a South Central girl to Nashville, Tennessee to start her journey? I was led to Tennessee State University after being accepted to over 50 plus HBCUs because I looked up and found an application that afforded me one price for a plethora of universities. And I was accepted to the most or the highest number of universities at my high school because of that one application, which led me to become a bit more lost. How might I make this decision on which school to go to? Because quite honestly, school was never my thing. I not only and to the credit of my mother, not only did I graduate high school with a semi-passing GPA, but back to what my mother would always say to me, you pulled it up at the very last minute and you got through it right at the end. That's just how it is. And and I don't count that as a bad thing now because I later realized that one, the school structure was not built for me, but also I needed to understand how I enjoyed learning. And I now know that the way that I learn is also the way that I teach. And going back to that moment of deciding between which university to select out of an abundance of caution by my family members, I decided to enroll in Tennessee State University in the summer of 2010. So, any songs that you can think of from the summer of 2010, that was my freshman year. But it wasn't a full freshman year because I was not in class. I was not in a book. I was not under a book. I was in someone's face, under someone. And sometimes I don't even remember these individuals' names. Sometimes I think back to that season and consider, why did I even allow myself to get so lost? Why did I even allow myself to stray so far away from the goal? Hadn't enough people said that they believed in me? Hadn't enough people said that they loved me? Hadn't enough people said that they supported me by their dollars, by their time that they spent? So why wasn't that enough? Now, that's a question that I've carried with me for a while, but now in this season, it it definitely shapes and weaves the thread of the fabric of the tapestry, of the testimony that I am now on the other side of that season to be able to say, I truly am not just a survivor, not just a miracle, but I am the other side of this statistic. And being led by external pressures before the external pressure of social media led every decision, similar to what we see now. Every external pressure said that being loved, being um, attractive in any way possible, being um, desired in any way possible was better suited than being respected, being educated, and being a graduate of anything. And so that became my compass. That became the way in which I led my life. Um, if the person in front of me, if those around me could say that I was lovable in that moment, or I was worthy of their attention in that moment, then I was good enough, which then led to um, making a few more inconsiderate, um, not so healthy decisions. I later became um, a mom. I became a wife. I became a manager of a household that felt so disjointed from the girl that was sent to Tennessee State University that I lost so much of myself. I lost so much direction. And in a moment of survival, after filing for divorce, after running back home to Los Angeles, I needed a new career path. And in the midst of that, I needed my 3 girls at the time to have a point of reference that led them to know that a young girl from South Central Los Angeles can find a reason to not give up, can find a reason to not feel bad about her circumstances, not fall victim to her circumstances, and have a goal in mind, but also achieve that goal. And for any single parent, for any single mother that is watching this days before um, Mother's Day, I want to invite you to trust yourself. I want to invite you to trust the experiences that you've had thus far will be the fuel for your future. And I stand in full faith and testimony that when you do stay committed to allowing your children to have a point of reference in you that says anything that was meant to challenge your character simply challenged a former you. So be introduced to this new version and walk in the testimony. Walk in the season that you're currently in. Walk in the season that you're currently fighting for, the version of yourself that you're fighting for. And when I found the fuel for that fight, when I found myself again, I wanted to break into something new. I wanted to break into tech. And after breaking into tech through self study, I found a program in partnership with Goodwill and Google, and I received a scholarship to become an IT support um, certificate holder through their professional accelerator program. And and the first job that was offered to me after completion of this certificate was an internship. But this was an internship at a corporation that I had dreamed about being employed by. And so what they didn't know was that they were handing me an opportunity that would have been a dream come true. And after I reluctantly declined that opportunity, the next day, I received a call and an email from the amazing um, coordinator that offered me a secondary opportunity. And this was for a year plus. And I had the opportunity to become a technology apprentice, same organization. And it gave me a chance to see a version of Kara that I never seen before. I was motivated in a new way. I was motivated to be able to not just give my girls a point of reference of thriving, but I gave myself a point of reference that allowed me to reintroduce myself to every possibility that I thought died with every dream that I had before leaving Los Angeles the first time. And so, with this resurrected, with this new sight, with this new lens that I was looking through, I was given the opportunity to break into tech through this technology apprenticeship. But after the offer, I felt like I was simply journeying on a cloud. The accolades were coming in, the applause was met with everything that I produced. And so it felt very familiar, but in the worst way. It felt familiar because it reminded me of the version that needed attention, the version that needed to be loved by external factors so that I was called valid, I was called loved, I was called affirmed. And that version of myself felt and experienced a great low after that first year of accolades, of applause, of attention. And it's interesting that these details are weaving themselves together, and I'm able to see how one season influenced and poured into the next. Just from saying this out loud, I'm able to become a lot more aware of where I was in that season. So I'm not just reliving it, but I'm also understanding the through line. I'm understanding the through line of my journey, and I'm understanding the through line of the consistency of my faith and where I've grown from there. So the next season brings me to that career low, and it brings me to this point of assessing what is it all for. And I imagine that a lot of single parents, a lot of early career professionals may find themselves in the same space where you reach this high, you've learned something new, you've stretched and challenged yourself, but yet whatever equates to not just applause, but whatever equates to validation isn't worth very much. Because not only is it temporary, but in some way it feels tarnished. In some way it feels a lot less worth the false version of yourself that you traded. And after experiencing a career low and the change of a few roles in this organization, because it's a consultancy, you're there, you have a job, but you are constantly competing and applying for other roles within that space. And that's what consultancy is. You're there to be on a project for a limited amount of time. Sometimes it is a long term project, sometimes it is a short term project. And for anyone getting into the consulting space, please, please, please check in with your mental stability. Find a place of psychological safety, not only within yourself, but in the network around you, because you will be challenged in ways that you did not anticipate. So when you go into a space of consulting, when you go into a space of um, corporate leadership, corporate employment, have that mental fortitude first, and you will go so far because you'll be able to see problems, issues, roadblocks from multiple perspectives and gain a lot of working experience, a lot of experience that stretches every ability that you were brought in with, but it'll stretch you mentally, it'll stretch you emotionally, and sometimes it may stretch you in the wrong direction. So that's why I urge you to find that space of psychological safety and that mental fortitude. Because without that, what I experienced during that career low, I also was able to see in like the small peak, right? The small peak through being above water emotionally. Through that small peak, I was able to notice that there were spots of many people around me that were experiencing the exact same thing. They reached this career high. They've done everything that was asked of them, but still, they came up short. They came up misaligned. And in that time, I thought, how can I be a solution? How can I be an advocate? How can I be a hand to help someone out of a burning building, out of a space where they feel like they're drowning? What can I do? How can I help? And this was the first time that I came to realize that my mission in the way that I connect to people quite naturally was to connect with people naturally. And I received training. I received training internally, and I was given the opportunity to become a mental health advocate, a mental health ally. And with this credential, I had the opportunity to meet with, engage closely with senior management, with junior management, with apprentices that were at the same level within the organization as myself. And this gave me the opportunity to not only sit in some of the darkest places that people were in alongside them, but also I found that it gave me a strength and I was able to be pulled out of that hole that I felt that I was in as well. And so after a year and some change of doing that work and bouncing around the different roles, I began to ask more questions. And I asked the right question of the right advocate. And she then leveraged her power, leveraged her influence to lend some to me. And a week before she retired, she said, I don't care what has to happen, get her on your team. And a position was created for me on the national team that supported the program that I graduated from. This was a gift. That time in that role was a true gift. I met with hundreds of individuals. I delivered hundreds of hours of training. And in that time, the greatest thing that I can take with me and utilize today as a now CEO of a workforce strategy organization is you have to build trust and use it as currency. You have to steward your impact and lend it out to those that need it. And you have to build, you have to lead with power. So, with trust, with impact, and with power, I am now a CEO. I am now on the other side of every season that shaped, that broke, that stretched, that challenged every need for attention, every need for accolade, every need for applause. And on the other side, I'm happily able to say that I am a wife of an amazing man. I'm a mother to three amazing girls. We're in our teenage years right now. And I'm an international speaker. I have touched the grass at the University of Oxford in the London area. So for the first time, I can truly say that not only have I been blessed, but my story is just the beginning. And it can be utilized as a blueprint to every single parent, to every single mother, especially. This is my gift to you. Keep fighting, keep the faith, and keep your consistency before you. Even if you feel like the most consistent thing about you and your work ethic is inconsistency, you've got a sister in that fight. But I can say that it doesn't last all the time, that you can overcome, and that you can build and travel your own route to rise. I'm Cara Gooch, your friend, your advocate, and a trainer, a developer of people, because I see a bit of myself and every season of my life up to this point in those that I help. I've utilized my experience to help others. So I invite you and I ask you, how will you use yours? See you later.